Hey, friends, and welcome back to the Lazy Budget Travel Tips podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Franklin, and today I'm joined by a special guest who is truly the queen of luxury travel without the luxury price tag. I'm talking to Taima Ramsey from Poor in a Private Plane. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by trying to find a good flight deal, or you're tired of booking the cheapest flight only to regret it later, this episode is for you. We're talking about how to find the best flights for your travel style and budget, not just the cheapest, and how Google Flights can help you grab luxury on a budget. So let's get into it. Hey, Taima, thanks for being here.
Hey, Jenny, I'm excited to be here.
So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about how you got into luxury travel on the budget, starting your blog, Poor in a Private Plane, which I gotta say, I freaking love that name.
Yeah, everybody loves name. So I started out with budget travel, and my whole thing was I wanted to get away. I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and my friends started kind of calling me, "Oh, you're like poor in a private plane. Like you do all these cool things, but then you're like not spending any money on it." So that's a short story of how the blog was born. But over the years, I realized that it's not only about budget for me. Like, yeah, I do want to find a good deal, but I am very picky about my flights. I'm very picky about where I stay. There's certain experiences that I want. And that's kind of where the luxury on a budget thing came into play because I realized that I was focusing more on these luxurious experiences, but still looking for the deal, right? Still looking for a way to get it, like they say, on the beer budget. But
Champagne taste on a beer budget.
yeah, I feel like that is fair because some beer are super expensive.
That's so true. You're right. Craft beer is so expensive.
But yeah, so pretty much like the champagne on a beer budget, and that's kind of how I got to where I'm at now, where my focus is luxury on a budget, and I love how you said like cheap versus best or things of that nature. Like I don't always go with the cheapest, but I always go for the cheapest for what I'm trying to get, what I'm trying to achieve,
Mhm.
right? So that's kind of where that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, so it's funny because when I talk to people about like budget travel and stuff, I like to tell them budget doesn't mean cheap
Hmm.
because I think that people think that they mean the same thing. And I'm like, no, because cheap has a connotation of like poor quality, right?
Hmm.
And budget just means that you're doing whatever within your means. Or you say, I want to spend this much on X thing, and you stay within that budget. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you are doing everything on the cheap. It doesn't mean that you're staying in hostels. It doesn't mean that you're always flying economy, even though there's nothing wrong with flying economy. But if you don't want to do that, you can still do it on a budget. Like you said, like you can still be poor in a private plane. Doesn't mean
Exactly,
anything.
exactly. And I think that's the reason why I also transitioned to like the luxury on a budget because I always said I was a budget traveler. And when people hear that, to your point, they automatically were like, oh, she must stay at hostels. She must backpack. She must do blah, 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 blah. And I've never done any of those things. I wish I kind of did. Now I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I wouldn't enjoy it the way I may have 10 years ago. But I never did any of those things. But people had this impression of me traveling like that because I called myself a budget travel blogger. And I definitely am not. There are some amazing budget travel bloggers out there that do it the way that people, expect them to do. They stay in hostels, they do the connecting flights, they do all these like really cool things. It's not my travel style. But yeah, so that's the reason why it's like that play on words of, yeah, I want this, but I'm gonna get it for a deal.
So, for you, what does it really mean to be a budget traveler? How do you look for flights? How do you travel so that people can kind of get a better idea of like what you mean by luxury on a budget?
Yeah, so I like to pick and do like this whole create your own adventure thing, right? So I give myself a budget for my trips, and then off of that budget, I will decide what are like 1 to 3 things that are non-negotiables for me. So, for example, if I'm traveling to Europe, one non-negotiable might be trying to get a business class flight, for example, right? If I use most of my budget on that, then maybe I could spend less on accommodations, or I could spend less on certain activities, or, kind of mix and match. So I guess mixing and matching is a little bit better. And it's like it's combining low and high experiences. So sometimes I'll fly economy because I don't want to spend too much money on a flight. So that way I have extra money to stay at a resort, for example. Or maybe I will stay at like a more low key hotel because I want to spend more money on food and experiences. So it's that mixing and matching thing. But the key is like if my budget is, whatever amount, one, two, three, $4,000, the key is that trying to fit all that in within that budget. That means that there's some things that I might not be able to do. And that's okay, as long as I get my top three things that I really, really want to experience.
Yeah, that's important because I hear a lot from people, well, if I'm going to be traveling on a budget, then does that mean I have to sacrifice the things that I really love? And I'm always like, no, you should save money on the things that aren't as important to you so that you can splurge on the things that are.
Exactly, exactly. And that's something that I talk a lot about on my blog, on my social media. I always talk a lot about like really think about what does luxury mean to you, because that differs with everybody. Like even between me and you, we've had these conversations about economy versus business class versus, and we all have like our little things that we consider luxurious. There's some people that will not step on a plane unless they're in business class, and that's it. It's a non-negotiable. And then there's others that have to stay at a certain level of a hotel. There's some people that won't drive overseas. They prefer to get a driver because they don't want to, do things on their own, or they prefer just to do tours. So it's kind of trying to figure out like, what is your definition of luxury? What does luxury mean to you? Because it means something different for everybody. And I think that's important because some of us chase this idea of luxury and then realize that we don't even care about it as much as we thought we did. Like there's other things that are more important. So yeah, so it's super important just to figure out like what does luxury mean to you? What is the most important thing that you want to get out of this trip? And also being flexible. Depending on where you're at, where you're going in the world, your priorities are going to differ. Like there's some places that I go that I will sacrifice, a hotel or whatever because I know that I'm going to spend all my money eating and drinking wine because it's like one of those places that's known for that, right? But then there's other places where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go hiking, or I'm gonna do like a lot of these free activities. So I have a little bit more room in the budget to spend on a nicer hotel because nobody wants to spend a day hiking and then sleep on a bad bed. So it's just really understanding what's the most important to you and focusing on that thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely the budget traveler who is not taking a million layovers to get the cheapest flight.
I
I will
know.
pay for the convenience of no layover, like a direct flight, or maybe at the most one layover. I'm not doing a layover to save 30 bucks. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I can't do that. I cannot do that. I see people doing it all the time and I'm like, that's great for you, but no, it's just
Mm-mm.
not gonna work.
No, and like for me, time is money. So
Yeah,
that 30
exactly.
bucks is totally
Exactly.
worth it to me to have the convenience of having the direct flight 100%,
Yeah,
even if I'm flying in
exactly.
economy.
Yeah, no, I 1,000% agree with that. I try to avoid connecting flights as much as I can, and sometimes they're unavoidable, and that's okay. But I agree with that, and especially it really has to be like a huge difference. Like if
Mhm.
it's a couple $100s, I might think a little bit more about it, right?
Yeah.
But when it's like 30, 40, 50, yeah, no, it's not happening.
Mm-mm.
I refuse.
No.
I
Uh-uh.
refuse.
Same, same. Okay, so I know that one of the tools that you absolutely love, and I absolutely love too, is Google Flights. We
Yes.
are Google Flights
Oh my God.
girlies.
I love it.
I'm on Google Flights all the time and setting those alerts. Why don't you tell us about why you love Google Flights, what features you use?
So I've been using Google Flights for so long. It's one of those things that I feel like it's just so secondary. Like the minute that I want to go somewhere, or I get that itch to go somewhere, that's the first website I go to. And I think what I love about it is that you could do so many things there and it saves so much time. So I use it a few different ways. The first way that I use it is when I'm looking to go somewhere and I don't really know where I want to go. I just know I want to get out. So I love using their explore feature for that. And, I could put in like, let's say if I'm looking to go away for the month of May or the month of June or whatever, I could pop that into the search. I could do New York to anywhere. and it gives me some awesome ideas. And I feel like I've traveled to places that I never really thought I would ever go to because of that, because it was such a good deal and I couldn't pass it up. So it's just great to give you an idea of places that you could go within your budget. So that's number one way. The second way that I use it is if I do have specific places that I need to go to. So, for example, this year I have a lot of travel conferences that I'm going to, and they're all over the US. So I went ahead and set alerts for all those cities and for the dates that I need to be where I need to be. And it's great. That's why I was on Google Flights earlier, because I got an alert that a flight that I already purchased went down.
Some airlines, you can get a full refund just depending on the
Yep.
type of
Yep.
you book. Some airlines will give you a credit that doesn't expire. You could use that for something else later. It's just great. When I tell people I have like 20 alerts all the time, they're like, but why? I'm like, this is why.
I taught my parents how to do that, and they bought a ticket to Mexico on a Sunday, and then the ticket went down on Monday, and they were able to get, I think it was almost $400 back. Yeah.
And that was within 24 hours.
It was within 24 hours. So it was like that 24-hour cancellation window, and it was with JetBlue. And they got, I think it was like close to $400 back. It was like crazy. And I told them, I said, this is the reason why you got to set this up. This is why you got to do it. And they were
It's
thrilled
so
because
easy.
now they have $400 extra to spend in Mexico. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
well,
awesome. If there's a flight booked direct with the airline, it doesn't matter what airline it is as long as it's at least 7 days away. If it's going to be touching US soil, whether you're leaving from US soil or it's coming to the US, if it's going to touch US soil, if you book it and cancel within 24 hours, regardless of what kind of fare you purchased, then you get a full refund.
Yep.
So.
And that's a rule a lot of people don't even know about. It's such a great rule, and that's more reasons I have those alerts on, because if something pops up within those 24 hours, you know what you could do.
Yeah,
So.
and also book it now, worry about it later sort of thing. Like sometimes
Mhm.
I get anxiety when I'm looking at flights and stuff. It's for a big trip. Sometimes I get anxiety where I'm like, should I book this? Should I not? And then now, since we're leaving from the US,
Mhm.
then or even coming back to the US, I know, okay, if I book this and then something happens, or
Mhm.
maybe the next day I realize I made a mistake or something, I can just cancel it within 24
Exactly.
hours and
Exactly.
no worries. I don't need a reason, nothing.
Nope, it's awesome. So yeah, those are the two biggest ways that I use Google Flights. I mean, there's a ton of other things that you could do on Google Flights, and we could spend hours and days talking about it. Like, we literally could spend hours and days talking about it.
Should weather exaggerate.
But yeah, those are kind of the two top ways that I use it. I think those are the two easiest ways to use it, right? There's so many other things that you could do. You could play around with connections. You could play around, with airports near you. You could play around with different airlines, whether you could bring a carry-on or not. There's just so many different
Different
options.
airline alliances if you're trying to flirt with
Yes,
certain alliance.
exactly. Yep, exactly. And also, I mentioned the Explore feature, but I also like the grid that they do. So let's say if you're looking for flights. So let's say if I wanted to go to Tampa this weekend and I looked up flights from Friday to Sunday, and maybe I didn't love the price. There's an option on Google Flights where you could click on the price grid and it'll give you the prices for days around your trip. So that's another feature that I love, because sometimes you could save a lot of money by leaving a day early or day late, etc. It's only helpful if you have some flexibility, but sometimes you'll be surprised at how much money you could save just by being slightly flexible with your schedule.
Even
Yeah.
instead of doing a morning flight, doing a flight really late at night, you can save a ton of cash, and Google Flights can help you with that. I use that date grid, and they also have a graph. It just depends on like how you like
Hmm.
to look at
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
But I like the grid personally because it really does save you a lot of money if you can be flexible.
It totally does. I love it. And what you were saying, like leaving early or late, I actually booked a flight to Chicago, and it's a 6 a.m. flight, but the next flight was $200 more.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally like maybe 2 hours later. So I was like, no, I'm taking the 6 a.m. flight. Like, that's $200.
And I'd like to, when you're searching with Google Flights, where sometimes people don't really know, like if you don't travel a lot, and even me, sometimes I don't really know what are the best airports to fly in and out of. But what's nice about Google Flights is that for New York, for example, you can just put in New York. And it'll
Mhm.
even have Newark in there. So then you can see which is the cheapest airport to where you're going. Instead of putting in, like, everyone knows LaGuardia, everyone knows
Mhm.
JFK.
Mhm.
Instead of putting that in, just put in New York
Yep.
and it will give you the nearby airports. And then that way you don't accidentally exclude something that could save you big.
Oh, yes, for sure. That's for sure. And also like regional airports, like New York, we have our big three, which is LaGuardia, JFK, and Newark. But we also have some smaller airports like White Plains. We have an airport in Long Island. There's Teterboro. There's like smaller airports. And sometimes you'll find that the low cost airlines will fly exclusively to those airports. And it's not that bad. I used to do that, like, when JetBlue first came out, we used to fly out of White Plains to go to Florida, and the tickets were so cheap because nobody flew out of there and nobody knew what JetBlue was. So they were like, "Ooh," you know? But there's, like, a lot of smaller airlines that will fly out of these airports, and you could save so much money, so much money. And some
And
of them go to, like, places like in the Caribbean, like, you have a few options. It's not just like flying, from New York to DC or something. There's actually a lot of options. So you definitely need to add that to the list when you're searching.
for sure. And it will depend on how much you're saving. Like if you're only saving $30 and you'd have to drive like 2-3 hours to
Yeah,
a
no.
different airport, that ain't worth it.
No, and that's a good point too. Like when you're traveling overseas, it's the same situation in a lot of these bigger cities. Like a lot of the major, like Paris or Milan, or a lot of these major cities do have multiple airports, and some of them do have the equivalent of regional airports where you could get great deals on flights. But it's always important when you do that. I always Google map it. So I'll see like how far is this airport to my destination or to my hotel or whatever, to see how easy it is. Then some places it's easy because you just hop on a train and you're fine. Other places you might have to rent a car, you might have to get some other transportation, and then it might not be worth it.
Mhm.
So it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. So you got to do the math also, figure out what's really important to you, and then kind of go from there. But definitely the tracking for the price alerts and all the filtering is just great. And of course, the Explore feature. If you guys haven't tried the Explore feature and you're pretty flexible on not only when you're going, but where,
Yes. Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that's really huge too.
Yeah. And it's awesome also if you're going somewhere that you're not 100% familiar with, because what I've done with the Explore feature is I will put, like, let's say if I want to go to Europe, right? Or even if I want to go to Italy, I'll put Europe because sometimes you could find deals to like places that are right outside of your destination. And then it's like you end up doing like a two-for, right? So then you could kind of country hop or city hop, and you'll start with one region and then make your way, because it's really easy to get around on trains and things like that. And it's great because sometimes I don't realize, like, I forgot what it was. There was a place that I was looking at and I didn't realize how close it was to Italy. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, it was when I was planning a trip to Italy. I didn't realize like how close it was for us to be able to go to Switzerland. Like, I mean, they obviously border each other, but like in my mind, it's like a completely different country, right? Like it's so far
Mhm.
away. And we were able to finagle it where it's like, okay, we're going to start our trip here and then we're going to end up there. And we are able to do multiple countries for the price of one flight because we were playing around with it. And I discovered that because of Google Flights, because I saw how close the airports were. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. So that's another fun thing to do with Explore.
Like we said, there's definitely a lot of features with Google Flights. I would recommend playing around with it yourself. But if you want to watch a tutorial first, Taima and I both have YouTube channels where we have tutorials on Google Flights. And I know that Taima even has like blog posts about it. So remember, pouring a private plane. And I have a couple of Google Flights videos on my Traveling Franklin's channel, but I'll probably do some updated ones on the Lazy Budget Travel Tips podcast channel. Which, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you can if you want. You can see our pretty faces. And then there are some other things about Google Flights. People maybe have some misconceptions about Google Flights. For instance, they may think, oh, well, I can book my flight on Google Flights. They think that it's like a third party or like an OTA, which is an online travel agency.
Mm.
And that's just not the case.
No, That's what I like about Google Flights actually as well. There are a lot of flight aggregators that you could book directly through that flight aggregator. And that comes with its own share of potential issues when you're going
Mhm.
through a third party. I always recommend going direct. And I love that when you go onto Google Flights, it actually gives you the options of where you could book your flight. I always recommend going direct no matter what. But it will tell you, like, click here to book on Delta, click here to book on Expedia, click here to book on blah, blah, blah. So I do appreciate that it gives you those options because you're not actually booking on Google Flight. It's directing you to the site. So it's directing you to Delta, it's directing you to American Airlines, wherever you're going. So that's good. Or you could just do what I do. And as soon as you find a good deal, just head straight to Delta, type it in, and go from there.
Yeah, I think in some markets they are updating Google Flights where you could book your flight technically through Google Flights, but it's I think it works a little bit differently to where you are still booking direct,
Hmm.
but because you're booking it through Google Flights, then they can track it for you, and then they have this best price guarantee where you'll get an automatic refund. I haven't seen that personally, but I know that's something that they're rolling out.
I haven't seen it in real life yet, but I've heard about it and I've read articles about it. The other thing that Google Flights is adding now is trains. Yeah.
Hotels too, I heard.
And now you could actually, with the hotels, they add it and then they take it away. But now they add price tracking on the hotels. So it's
That's cool.
similar to the regular Google alerts. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, you could do trains and that's awesome when you're traveling. It doesn't work as well here in the US because our train travel not
Mhm.
as robust as in Europe. But it's awesome in Europe. For example, last year when I did a trip from northern Italy to southern Italy, when I was searching how to get from point A to point B, it was giving me options for flights. And then underneath, it gave me the options for the high speed train, the regional trains. So it's kind of cool because then you could compare because again, that's something else. People automatically, oh, train would be cheaper. Not necessarily. Like some of these flights are like, I found flights for like $30 and the train was like 80. It makes
And then
you,
the train's longer too.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So I love that feature. And that is something that you will start to see depending on what you're searching. So that's a lot of fun as well.
And then for the points and miles people out there, don't worry, we also love points and miles, as you know from this podcast.
Yes.
I do want to point out, which I don't know, Taima, if you've used this, because I know we usually talk about redemptions and stuff. I might be your actual Google Flights Chrome extension for this, but there's a Chrome extension called Points Path. I'll put a link in the show notes for you guys. I've been needing to do like a tutorial with it and stuff just to show people. I actually think I do have something on my channel, but anyways, it's called Points Path. And what I like about it, it's just a Chrome extension, is that it will show you when you're using Google Flights if that airline like if you can use points, how much points you would need and whether or not it's a good deal, if you should use points or if you should use cash.
Ooh,
It's pretty cool.
I need that in my life. I did not know.
That
I've always
exists.
wanted something like that because you could do that like when you go on Delta or like KLM or all those
Mhm.
websites. They let you like toggle between points and but I didn't know you could do that on Google. I learned something new today.
Yeah, Points Path Chrome extension. So I haven't talked about it too much because it's still really new and there are still some things it doesn't always catch, but it is
Mhm.
getting better and better. If it says there's no points, if points isn't an option, I'm like, well, let me check. And I think it's getting better about alliance partners and stuff because even if you have a certain amount of points and the flight isn't available on like a partner website, it is direct with the airline, just little
Yeah.
things like that, but I still think it's good. And I feel like as time goes by, it'll get better and better. So definitely check
I'm gonna
out,
try that.
yes, Points Path Chrome extension. Okay, so we love Google Flights, but there are other search engines. Let's talk about some of the ones you like to use and the pros and cons.
To be honest, the only other one that I use, I play around with Kayak, I play around with Skyscanner. But the one that I have been liking is Kayak. And the reason why is because they've been introducing like all these, they're almost like AI models, if you will, but they've been introducing like these cool features where it'll say like, let's say if I wanted to go to I don't know, let's say if I wanted to go to the Maldives, right? And I'm trying to figure out like what's the best time of year to go or when's the cheapest to go. But then you also want to know when's the best time to go because you don't want to go when it's cheap and then it's like in rainy season. You're not going to enjoy yourself. So they have this feature where it combines price and the time of year, and it will tell you like the best time to go is X because the weather is the best and the flights are the cheapest. It's like a good combination. So I love that feature that they have. And they have like a lot of cool features. Like if you're one of those people that are into like the explore features of Google, they have a lot of similar things, but they tie in all these other facts. And then also what I appreciate is when you do that, it also tells you what the hotel prices are with Kayak. So it's kind of cool because it'll be like, let's say it says May is the best time to go. Prices, average price is $1,000. Average hotel price is $200 a night. So it kind of gives you the snapshot of like, okay, can I swing this? Can I afford this? All right, if the flight's 1,000, I could do 5 nights for $200 a night. Okay, I'm at 2,000. I'm in my happy place, right? Whatever your budget is. I just made something up. But I really like that feature. I really haven't seen anybody else doing anything similar to that, but that's something that I like to play around with a lot.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that in one of your courses. And so I looked at it and it is pretty cool. Like you said, Google Flights Explorer has similar features. It's not the same though. So I would use both, but I do like when I'm already in Google Flights and then I can check out Google Explorer. It's just another tab, guys. You just would click the tab over, but I would use both. And then there's Expedia, Skyscanner, Hopper, all of these different what they call OTAs, which is an online travel agency. There are a lot of those out there. Personally, I don't really mess with those because I would freak out if something happened with my flight and then I had to go through them to try to change things. And it's just a pain and it's just so much easier to book direct. I haven't found it like the flight for myself because we're talking about best flight, not cheapest flight. And many times when I find the best flight that works for me, which would be like, it doesn't have a lot or any layovers. If the time and day that I need it to be, etc. And then I go over and I compare it with an OTA, it's never that much cheaper for me anyway.
I thought that there was going to be never seen a good deal. Sometimes I feel like they could be more expensive because sometimes they also send you to other sites like Priceline or like things like that. And I feel like they add fees sometimes. I'm not sure. I don't use them either.
No,
like,
they do.
Yeah, I feel like I had this theory, but I didn't have anything to substantiate it. But I'm the same way. Like I always prefer to book direct. I will play around, because I want to see. Also, like Skyscanner, sometimes it depends on where you're going, but sometimes Skyscanner has airlines that are not on Google Flights, so it could be good to play around with it. Just to kind of see what's out there, especially if you're traveling to a place that you're not familiar with. Like if you're traveling within the US, we're familiar with most of the airlines that we have available. There are some smaller ones that people don't talk about, but they're not exactly the ones that are flying from Orlando to LAX, right? These are going to like smaller regional places or more rural areas of the US. But if you're flying internationally, there's like a lot of those small, like EasyJet and like all these other airlines that we've probably never heard of before. And believe it or not, Google Flights doesn't have them on their platform. Not all of them.
Yeah, I know they have EasyJet. They're getting more. It's getting better.
Yes.
I'm looking for regional flights within the UK, and EasyJet came up.
Yeah. So now they're starting to add them, but a lot of those traditionally weren't in Google Flights. So Skyscanner was a good alternative because Skyscanner does something similar to Google Flights, but it pulls in more of those smaller airlines, which is nice. So just something to keep in mind. But
yeah, and Google Flights didn't have Southwest for the longest time. So I have
yes.
to remind myself to look at Southwest, but finally Southwest is on Google Flights, but then it's just in time for them to do all this stuff with their loyalty program and crap, and now I don't want to fly them anymore.
You and everybody else. I keep on seeing I keep on seeing the Facebook posts of people like, I'm not flying you anymore. Or, you messed up a good thing. And I get it.
Well, clap for Southwest being on
Yeah.
Google Flights. But
Oh,
anyways, I think that for OTAs like Expedia and stuff, I think you might be able to find deals if you're booking like those packages, flights and hotel. I think that's where a lot of people have a lot of success. But
I
I
agree
won't
with
do
that.
that.
Yeah, I try not to book. The only one that I use is actually Delta Vacations.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
I like it a lot. They have a lot of good deals for like if you're trying to do like a vacation package, hotel, car, that kind of thing, flight, you can find some really, really great deals because they give you discounts on sometimes the discount is like off the flight. So like you're paying for the hotel and basically getting the flight for free, for example, or you're getting the car for free or something. So I've tested this a million times. I've priced things separately and I've priced things on Delta Vacations and the Expedias and the JetBlue Vacations. And you'll be surprised how much money you could save. That's one of my biggest hacks that I don't talk about enough, but I actually was able a couple of years ago, I was flying to Italy and I booked a package on Google Flights for two business class round trip, hotel for a week and a car for a week. And it was like, I think it was like $1,600 per person or something, which is pretty much
Oh,
the
wow.
cost of a flight.
Yeah.
But we got all of that. It was insane. But I got it on Delta Vacations. And it was
Okay.
just
Bet on Delta Vacations.
Yep.
Okay, nice.
And it was just me comparing prices. But again, I always prefer and recommend for people to book direct when it's possible.
Yeah, for sure. And we talk a lot about cash, right? I mentioned a little bit about points path for Google Flights and stuff, but the reason why it's so important for you to get good at also finding good cash deals is because for most people, we use points to supplement our travel budget. We're still paying cash for stuff. And then also, we need our points to stretch further. We'll use our points for things that are going to save us the most money. Like, for example, when I was going to Spain with my mom, we wanted to fly business class. And that was going to cost a lot more than staying in hotels. Usually, when I'm flying to Europe, if I'm flying economy, it's going to be a lot cheaper to find economy flights using a site like Google Flights to find the best one than it will to stay in hotels for like a week or two. So then in that case, I would use my points for the hotels because then, I'm saving the most money because you can find some really good cash deals to Europe, guys.
Yep. Yeah.
Especially if you are flexible. But even if you're not flexible, if you have kids, you can only fly on certain breaks and stuff, then if you book far enough in advance, then you can find some good deals and use Google Flights tracking feature. Or, which a lot of people don't realize this, I mean, everyone wants to spend Thanksgiving at home. But if you were trying to go to Europe and your kids, I know in Florida, they have at least a week off now for Thanksgiving. Flying to Europe over Thanksgiving saves you serious cash.
Oh, yes, it does. It
Because
totally
everyone's
does.
trying to fly domestically to go home to see their families.
Yep, exactly.
Why don't you have
Exactly.
a Thanksgiving in France or in Ireland or in Italy? Why not?
Right? Why not? We actually did Thanksgiving in Mexico last year. The whole family. It was
There you
awesome.
go.
It was awesome. No flight delays, no snow. It was perfect.
There you go. Think outside the box, guys.
Yes, exactly.
So let's talk about your favorite airlines, like budget airlines versus those legacy carriers. I know you're a Delta girl, but is it always Delta? Like, tell us what you like to do.
Pretty much. I am married to Delta. I used to fly JetBlue, and I have not flown JetBlue in probably like 3, 4, 5 years at this
I
point.
think it
Like,
depends on where you want to go.
I stick to Delta as much as I can, and unfortunately, I plan my trips around it because Delta does not fly to a lot of places, unfortunately, and it does limit me sometimes. Last year, we went to Asia, and we were trying to figure out where to go, and we ended up going to Seoul because there were flights on Delta to Seoul, and there were a few options for us. We originally were thinking about going to the Philippines, but then we're like, there's no flights. They don't fly to the Philippines. You have to fly to Seoul, and then from there, you have to go with domestic carrier, if you will, or a smaller carrier to get there. So we ended up changing our whole trip to just doing Seoul. I love Delta. It's comfortable for me, and I like all of their partners.
Yeah.
I especially love KLM. Aeromexico is awesome. I feel like Aeromexico is like flying back in the day. Like it's still like they still give you the meal. It's like the
Mhm.
free tequila. Like it's so cool.
We flew Aeromexico for the first time last year, and I remember messaging you when I was in the lounge.
Yeah.
I think I was connected in Mexico City,
Yep.
and I was like, Aeromexico, like, oh,
Yes, they are so good. They are so good. So yeah, so I usually will stick to anyone that's in the alliance. Um, yeah, I can't tell you. I don't know when's the last time I flown someone that was not a Delta or partner. Why can't I think of names? Sky Team.
yeah, it's the loyalty program for Delta is Sky Miles, and then their alliance is Sky Team.
Yes. I kept on thinking Sky Miles, and I'm like, wait, no, Sky Team. Yeah, so I can't tell you the last time that I've flown. I will not touch the spirits of the world. I will not touch the
Mhm.
frontiers of the world. Like I said, I used to fly JetBlue and I was like, it wasn't the experience that I wanted when I was flying. And that's again why I'm poor in a private plane. I will spend more money to fly Delta and their redemptions aren't always the greatest. But but I
That,
like the experience.
that's what we call them in the Points of Miles world, Sky Pesos. Hey guys, it's Jenny here. Sorry to interrupt. If you love the podcast, I've got a free budget travel 101 course to help you start saving on flights, hotels, and more. Grab it at travelingfranklins.com/budget travel 101 or check the show notes. Want to connect with other like-minded travelers? Join the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group. I share more tips, host live Q&As, and keep you up to date on the latest. And if you're looking to show your support, check out my affiliate links or buy me a coffee. Back to the episode.
I think I yelled at all the time about being a Delta loyalist. But anyway,
I don't yell at you.
I was talking about you. No, I was talking about her.
Whatever. Because I'm the total opposite. I'm like, girl, why? I am a self-proclaimed free agent. I will fly almost anything to get to where I want to go. But I'm the same wavelength with you on I won't fly Spirit. I won't fly Frontier unless I absolutely have to, but I will avoid it at all costs.
Yep.
Because to me, there are just certain things that I will not compromise on.
Yep, exactly.
And knowing how to find that's why it's like best flight versus cheapest flight, because knowing how to find those best flights for me and then like supplementing with points miles, that's gonna get me where I want to go, how I want to get there, but
Mhm.
without paying full price. That's the
Exactly.
only way I would be able to do it.
Yep, exactly, exactly. I need to get better at that. I'll work on it.
Okay. You've been telling me that for years, but that's fine.
Working on it.
But you're like the queen teaching people how to budget and think of budgeting in a different way so that they can pay a little more to fly what they want to fly. Like you want to fly
Exactly.
Delta. And so you got a budget for that. And then you also have your points to supplement because I had brought you over to Chase to be a Chase girl for those Hyatt redemptions. And you've done
Mhm.
really well with those.
Oh, yes, yes. I love that, and I'm doing it again. I'm actually, we're gonna when we go to Chicago, I'm gonna use points for a good portion of our stay, and it's saving us upwards of almost $1,000. So
Yeah. There you go.
here
And
for it.
then I will allow you to fly. You're welcome.
I have your permission.
You now have my permission to fly
Thank
Delta and
you.
their
Thank you for
partners.
the permission.
But, enough shade on Delta because it really is a great airline. Let's be real. It really
I'd
is.
like to fly them.
Yeah, I just wish that their redemptions weren't so high because and don't get me wrong, you can get some really great redemptions on Sky Miles, but you have to be flexible.
Yeah,
And that's the problem. Most people, when they get into this, or even just like most normal people, they just can't be flexible.
yeah,
But if you
yeah,
want to make something like Sky Miles work, or even it's not even just Sky Miles, but if you're kind of stuck within like a specific program, being flexible is really what you need to be
yes,
in order to
yes.
make that
I,
work.
I agree. And the only one thing I will say about Sky Miles, they do these secret point sales. that they
That's
do
true.
not advertise, but they exist if you know where to find them. I don't even know. It's like I find them by accident. And that's usually the best way to get redemptions on them, right? Like they'll do these flash point sales where it's like, tickets to Asia or whatever, but it's always very specific. So to your point, you have to be super flexible because they might do a flash Asia sale. And if you're not interested in going to Asia, well, tough luck, I haven't seen a lot of European ones. Sometimes they do like the UK once in a while, but I've seen a lot of Asia ones, which is kind of
Mhm.
cool. And I've seen some Caribbean ones too, but you have to be like on point and like sitting there like watching it. They're very hard to find.
Yeah, that's the thing about flexible points because if you have flexible points, like let's say Chase points, then you have more options. And if you still like to fly Delta and their partners, there's ways to do that, like through
Hmm.
Flying Blue with Air France and
Yep.
KLM. We've flown Delta flights or like Aero Mexico, which is a partner as well that we mentioned earlier. I booked that through KLM before.
Yeah.
So there are ways that you can do it, if you're like Taima and you have to fly Delta.
I'm gonna surprise you one of these days. Watch.
Hey, I will be the first person to be like, heck yeah. But honestly, guys, do whatever you need to do. It's fine. If you love Delta, then we can make that work too. It's fine. You
Yes.
can still be my friend. I mean, Taim and I are BFFs, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that you've booked a ton of trips. You're always going somewhere.
Yes.
But
Okay.
why don't you tell us about like one of your favorite redemptions that you've done? It could be recent, it could be something that you did a while ago.
So I actually just booked a trip last week. My parents are going to Mexico and I wanted to go, but the prices were crazy. And I just couldn't justify spending thousands and thousands of dollars. So I sat down and I said, okay, if there's a way that I could get this trip under 2000 for two people, I will go. And I went on Google Flights. I started looking to see what my options were. Long story short, I used points for my flights and I used some points for my hotel, not a lot. And I was able to book a week in Mexico at an all inclusive for $1,600 for two people, which is unheard of. And I probably all in maybe used like 50,000 points all in, which is hardly
Is that
anything.
counting your flight too?
Yep. Flights, everything.
$1,600 for two people. Your flight to Mexico from New York, guys.
Direct on Delta.
Round trip. Oh, on Delta.
That's important.
So direct round trip from New York to Mexico, plus all inclusive. So not only is your accommodations covered, but your food and stuff like that.
Mhm.
1,600 out the door, two people.
Yep.
Wow.
And transportation to and from the airport when we land in Cancun.
Wow, nice.
So that was like, that's my redemption of the year. And I didn't really spend that many points on it, which was even better. I mean, that trip easily was almost like 3,500 easy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm very proud of myself. So I started off searching for the flights on Google Flights and I saw what combination of days were going to be the cheapest. And then I went into Delta and I did the same exact search on Delta. Delta does have a similar feature where they have like a price calendar. So I put in the dates and I toggled it for points because I was curious to see what it was. And Delta has this cool thing that if you have the Delta credit card, you get a 15% discount on your points. So when I saw how much the points were, it just made more sense for me to redeem the points versus paying cash. The flights by themselves are probably going to be close to like $800-900. I spent like 30 something thousand points on the flights themselves. And
That's
yeah. And so I booked it on the Delta site. I made sure that I was logged in so I could get my 15% credit. And that's how I got the flights. And then for the hotel, I had points in the hotel loyalty program. So basically what I was able to do was I was able to get a discount on my total rate. So it's almost equivalent to like getting a couple nights free, but they just take it off the bottom of the price. So like if the hotel was 1,400, it came out to like 1,100 or something. So I did a combination of some points from the hotel and then I used my Delta Sky Miles towards my Delta flights. So it was a very lucky and good combination. And again, I used Google Flights to figure out what days were the best days to travel. So that helped a lot because I'm traveling over a holiday. Oh, and it's for Memorial Day week, which is even crazier because you
That is
know
crazy.
how expensive things get at that time. Kids are out of school, everybody is ready to get the summer started. So yeah. So that's for me, that's like the redemption of the year so far. We still have a few more months to go.
That's awesome though, because you were able to, like you said, mix and match there a bit, using
Hmm.
Google Flights, using your points and stuff. Also, traveling on days that are cheaper during a time when it just seems like it's going to be
Hmm.
expensive no matter what.
Yeah. And it did not take me that long to do that. A lot of people think, oh, all this planning, it's going to take forever. Yes, it could take time. It does take time. But with this trip, I was able to do it within a couple of hours. Like I did all this homework within a couple of hours and I was booked. I was ready to go.
Mhm.
So it doesn't always have to take days and months and years and this and that. Some people get overwhelmed with the whole searching and figuring things out. And yes, it could get complicated if you want to make it complicated, but it could be easy as well. So.
Yeah. I always say it's only complicated if you make it
Mhm.
complicated.
Yep.
If you can't do some of the things that we're talking about, that's fine. Just figure out what works for you. That's all you got
Mhm.
to do. And
Yep.
if you need help, we've got resources. And then, there's this podcast, the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group. Taima
Yes.
also has a Facebook group. What's your
I
Facebook
do.
group called?
It is called
It's
Luxury Travel on a Budget, Insider Tips for Saving Money.
You like to do Facebook Lives and stuff like that, which is fun, talking about Google Flights. And you also have like other things that you talk about. I think one of the things that I never really heard of is the codes, the group codes or something.
Oh, no. The airline codes? Yes. People don't realize that a lot of airlines, they have these special promotions. You could use coupon codes to get discounts on your flights, which is insane. Like people don't know that this is a thing. So I don't know about you, but anytime that I buy something online, the first thing I do is look up the coupon code for it. So I'm like,
Mhm.
if I'm, like at Walmart or whatever, I'm like, Walmart coupon code or like Old Navy coupon code, whatever it is. You could do the same thing with flights. American Airlines does it. There's a few different carriers that do it and they don't advertise it. But if
Mm.
you do a search for it on their websites or even just on Google, you'll find it. So I think that's a cool way to save extra money. And a lot of times it's like 10% or off or something like that, or like a certain dollar amount, but it's still pretty awesome. And Delta Vacations also does coupon codes for their getaways. So they usually have coupon codes where you could get like $200 off, $300 off your package, which is pretty good. So I love using those codes.
So we talked about like things to do and stuff. What are some things that people shouldn't do? What's one mistake people make?
I know my biggest mistake is hoarding points, and I have no idea why I do it. I'm still guilty. I've gotten better, but I'm still guilty of it, like saving my points for I don't know what when I should just be using them.
You're killing me, man.
I know, but you're the reason why I started using them, right? Like we had this conversation and you kind of pushed me to use them. And that's why I'm using them now. But it's like this idea that some people feel like and some people's means me, some people feel like if they're not getting like this mega amazing redemption of like a flight around the world for 50,000 points in lie flat Q suites, that they can't use their points.
Hmm.
And I'm here to tell you, don't do that. Both Jenny and I went to Utah and we used points to stay at the Hyatt there. How much money did that save us? It was like insane.
Thousand.
It was insane. It was insane. And we went to a conference, we stayed steps away from the conference, and we saved at least $300 a night on our hotels because we use points. I'm doing the same exact thing for a conference I'm going to in Chicago. I'm using points for my Hyatt stays because the hotels in Chicago in the summer are ridiculous. Ridiculous. Nobody should be paying that much. And I'm not going to pay that much because I'm using points. So I've gotten better about it. So you don't have to just focus on like this big giant redemption. I mean, if that's your goal, that's awesome. But don't be like me. Don't hoard your points. I'm a recovering hoarder. I'm getting
We've
there.
been working on it. We've been working on it for a
Yes.
while, and you are
Yes.
getting better.
Yes, I
I'm
am.
proud of you.
But that's probably my biggest mistake. And also booking stuff for the wrong dates. But We
Yeah,
won't
don't
talk
do
about
that,
that
guys. But
today.
if you book your flights for the wrong dates and it's within 24 hours, and if you're flying into the US or out of the US, then you can cancel it within 24 hours.
Just
I'm
make sure you figure it out before the 24 hours.
yeah, I'm the type of person though that like books something, then like tries to relax, and then in the middle of the night, I'll take out my phone and be like, "What date was it for?"
Oh my
And
God.
like,
Yeah.
I'm crazy. But yeah, I think that is, I mean, you're not alone in that and the hoarding the points thing because people do get hung up on cents per point, I think is a really big one.
Hmm.
Like, well, I'm not going to get 2 cents per point, so I should just not use my points. And that's not like the point of why we're talking about points and miles and
Yeah.
stuff. We're not saying you do all this work of figuring out points and miles and then you earn a lot of them and then you end up making a bad redemption.
Or not even going on the trip. Like some
Oh, that's
people
the
will choose
worst.
not to go on the trip because they don't want to use their points. The cash value is, over their budget. And it's like, but that's what the points are there for. Even if you're using them to cover one hotel night, that could make a huge difference in your travel budget. And there's a lot of awesome redemptions on hotels out there that, everybody is always talking about flights. And yes, I mean, I think that's one of my favorite ways to use them. But honestly, the hotels, there's some really good redemptions out there. And that's how I've been like, I use them on flights, but the hotels is what has helped me not be a hoarder.
Yeah, I would rather, if I had the choice, I would use my points for hotels over flights. One is easier.
Yes, it is. It
Easier
is.
to find availability if you're flexible. It's like you don't have to deal with alliance partners and trying to wrap your head
Mhm.
around that whole thing. And then in some ways, it saves you more money
Mhm.
because if unless you're trying to fly business class or first class everywhere and you're using all your points for that, which there's nothing wrong with that. We're definitely not saying that. I
Mm-mm.
would love to do that. But unless you're doing that, a lot of times what you're spending on your flight is going to be less in cash than what you're spending on hotels. That's
Yeah.
not always the case, but think about that.
Yep.
When you're looking at, when you want to spend points, when you want to spend cash, just something to consider.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
key takeaways is use Google Flights because it's awesome, but also
Mhm.
because it's got great features like price tracking, Google Flights Explore, check out the points path, Chrome extension, be flexible, be strategic. Anything else?
Be open-minded.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one. There's so many cool places to see and do, and there's so many different ways that you could get there. So be open-minded about it. And I think Google Flights does a great job of helping us do that, right? Like
Hmm.
go somewhere you didn't think you were ever going to go or ever think you could afford. That's the other
Yes.
one.
So, let's get into rapid fire. Flight edition. Are you
Ooh,
ready?
think so.
Window or aisle seat?
It depends.
Oh, gosh. Get out of here. We know you have a preference. What is it? Just
Aisle going, window coming.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Checked bag or carry on only?
Carry on all day, every day.
Team carry on only, baby.
Yes.
What's always in your carry on?
My shoes.
You and your shoes, man. When I'm traveling, I bring like 2, maybe 3 pairs of shoes. And I wear the one that's like not going to fit in my luggage. But you and shoes, man.
Yeah, I love my shoes. In my carry-on though, like my actual like personal bag, I always have a change of clothes.
Yes.
Always. If I'm going to a hot location, I also have a bathing suit. But I always have a change of clothes because if for whatever reason left delayed or you were forced to check your bag without planning and something
Mhm.
happens with your bag, you always have a fresh pair of clothes and you could kind of get your vacation started and not freak out about like, I have no underwear or I don't know, something.
Yeah. No, I do the same. All right. One destination you could visit over and over again.
Italy,
Yeah.
the whole country.
I need to take Brandon to Italy.
I love it.
Okay. Favorite airport lounge you've ever experienced?
The KLM lounge in Amsterdam. I really
Okay.
like that one.
Most underrated travel destination for luxury on a budget.
So this is a place that a lot of people don't know about or heard of, but Vieste in Italy is like one of my favorite luxury on a budget destination. I'm talking beach club, all-inclusive hotels, like you're on the water, sandy beaches, which you don't find a lot in Europe or in Italy. That's my jam. And it's super, super, super affordable.
Okay, so what's the name again?
Vieste, Vieste. It's in the southern part of Italy.
Okay.
It's on the boot. It's by the boot. The heel of the boot. I mean, the heel.
Got it.
Yes.
All right. First class upgrade or 5-star hotel stay, if you had to choose. I think we know which one you're going to pick.
I mean, I'm going to say first class upgrade, but it depends on how long that flight is and how long I'm staying.
See, for me, it would be the 5-star hotel stay because I'm going to spend a lot more time in the hotel than I am on the flight. But that also depends because maybe not. It depends on where we're going. Because if it's one of those trips where it's go, 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 and I'm only sleeping in the hotel, I really only need a comfy bed and a clean room. It doesn't need to be 5-star. So in that case, I would pick first class upgrade. So you know what? Now that I'm thinking out loud, I think you're onto something.
If I'm going to Asia, I'm definitely getting the first class. If I'm going to Mexico, I'm definitely getting the 5-star hotel.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your go-to in-flight snack or beverage?
Wine and Delta has these vegan gummy bears and they're so good.
They do?
Yes. They're like vegan gummy bears. I love them. They're like, every time they pass by, I grab like 4 bags because I'm obsessed.
I did not know this.
Yes.
No idea.
Yes.
Okay.
I think they're only available in like economy comfort or comfort plus and first class, possibly, but they're really good. Those are my go-tos. I always take extra.
I love gummy bears. So if they had gummy bears, I'd be taking that all day long.
They're so good.
Okay. Most spontaneous trip you've ever taken?
I booked a European cruise 2 days before the cruise was scheduled to leave. And it was a 10-day cruise. So I booked the cruise on my flights on Wednesday. I flew it on Thursday. I landed in Italy on Friday, and my cruise left on Friday. That was the most spontaneous trip. And it took me to, I think, about 7 different countries on that
That
cruise.
you hadn't been to before?
That I hadn't been to. Well, Italy I've been to, but I went to Slovenia, Croatia, Albania. There was like a bunch of places that I never been to before, so it was really awesome. But I literally did that within 48 hours. And I used points for my flights.
Nice. But tell us about Travel Roulette.
Yes. So I have a it's actually an ebook right now, but I'm working on a course that's based off the ebook, and it's called Travel Roulette. And it's basically using Google Flights and Google itself to plan your trip. The basis of it is just like, you want to go somewhere, you don't know where you want to go, you don't know when you want to go, but you know you want to go somewhere. So you go into Google Flights and you let it pick, and then you pick your budget and you let it pick where you want to go. And you pretty much plan your whole trip based off of this. So for example, let's say we want to go somewhere this weekend for $500. I'm going to go into Google Flights. I'm going to set my home airport. I'm going to set it to anywhere. And I'm going to do a search for flights. And then I'm going to filter it by anything that's under $500. And you can put whatever filters you want. And then wherever Google tells us to go, that's where we go. So that's Travel Roulette. And I have a whole course on it that will show you how to plan a trip from start to finish in less than an hour if you really want to. So it's pretty awesome. And it's what I do all the time, personally.
I think we have to do it. We have to do a trip where we like give ourselves a really, 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 really tight budget. And then we document so that we can post on like social media or like write blog posts or do all the things about like how we planned it and how it went and stuff.
Yes, I'm down for that. I'm down for that.
We've been talking about it for a while. I think we need to do it. Do you guys want us to do it? And if you want us to do it, let us know like how much you think the budget should be, where the type of places we should go to. Should we make it a girls' trip?
Maybe we could do multiple versions of it.
Very true. So guys, let us know what you think, because I think that would be really fun.
Yes, it would. It would. I'm up for the challenge.
Okay. Taima, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. I always learn so much when we chat. It's so fun.
Yes, it was so much fun.
So, where can the listeners follow you on your fabulous trips and, get more of your tips?
Yeah, sure. So you could find me at Pour in a Private Plane across all social media channels. So my site is pourinaprivateplane.com, Pour in a Private Plane on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Wow, I'm in a lot of places. Um, Pinterest. So if you type in Pour in a Private Plane, you'll find me pretty much on every single social channel. You probably see me the most on Instagram and or my blog. I also have my Facebook group that I mentioned earlier, which you could just go to pouringaprivateplane.com/community. I love hanging out there, doing lives. Jenny likes to pop in and do lives with me, so that's a lot of fun. And sometimes I'm in her Facebook group too, doing lives. So there's a lot of places that you can find me.
Awesome. So, I hope this episode gave you the permission to stop chasing just the cheapest flights and instead start thinking about what actually makes a flight worth it to you. Whether that's fewer layovers, a better seat, or flying a more comfortable airline. Remember, it's not about being fancy, it's about being intentional. And tools like Google Flights make it so much easier to travel smarter. If you're new to Google Flights or haven't used some of the tips that we shared today, give it a spin the next time you're planning a trip and then come share your experience with us in the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group and or Taima's group. And if you love this episode, share it with a friend who's always hunting for flight deals or just tired of cramped, miserable flights. So until next time, keep it simple, keep it fun, and keep exploring. See you in the next episode. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Next, go grab our free Budget Travel 101 course. You'll find it in the show notes or at travelingfranklins.com. And join the community. The Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group is ready and waiting for you. I'm excited to see you there, and I'll catch you in the next episode.